It was a regular weeknight and dinner hadn't happened yet. The kids were playing and snacking. The house was busy in that pre dinner way. And my laptop was open on the counter. I'd pulled it out earlier because there were things I hadn't been able to touch all day. I was in the middle of building something, a page on my website, an outline for a talk that had been sitting half finished. That outline turning into slides, those slides turning into promo pieces, the kind of work that needs more than 10 or 15-minute chunks. I remember thinking, this is actually a good use of this time. And then quieter, is this really uninterrupted or just later? Still, I leaned in. Then it was time to eat. I closed my laptop and we sat down for dinner. Later that night, after the kids were in bed and the house had settled into that quiet nighttime rhythm, lights dim, dishwasher humming, I opened it again. Not because I'd forgotten to close it earlier, because I wanted to keep going. I picked up right where I'd left off, tweaking wording, moving boxes around on the page, adjusting slides, thinking about how all the pieces connected together. And somewhere in the middle of all that, a quiet thought drifted through. I don't really like that this is happening again. Almost immediately, another thought followed. It's fine, Candace. It's just a season. We'll rein it back in once this part is done. The thing is, I can't tell you when this started again. The whole me working after hours thing. There wasn't a first night where I thought, oh, I've crossed a line. It just kept happening. Some nights before dinner, some nights after, some nights both. And every once in a while, I'd catch myself, laptop open, ideas flowing, and feel that familiar heaviness settle in. Not urgency, not panic, just that sinking feeling like, oh, I'm here again. And I could feel myself resist it just a little. Nothing dramatic had happened. Nothing had blown up. Work had just slowly stretched back into spaces it used to stay out of. Quietly.
You're managing what you always do, but your brain feels scattered and you just can't seem to pull it together. The Busy Brain Do-Over from Steady State Co. is your space to recover, reset, and restart, proud of how you show up again. Because you're not the problem, and you're not alone. Here, you'll find real tools and honest conversations to help you feel capable, steady, and like yourself again. Here's your host, Candace David, a fellow busy brain who believes life doesn't have to run perfectly to run well.
And this is the part that messes with your head because you didn't start here. There was a stretch, maybe not long, but definitely real, where things felt steadier. You were protecting something that mattered to you. Your morning, your evenings, your energy, your brain. You remember how that felt. Not perfect, just clearer, more like yourself. And now, without a dramatic moment or a big decision, you're not there anymore. Not because you stopped caring, not because you quote unquote blew it, but because something slowly shifted. Maybe you replaced that habit with something easier. Maybe you filled the space with noise. Maybe you just stopped. And part of you notices, but another part really doesn't want to look too closely. Because the second you do, that all too familiar question shows up. Why do I always do this? Not curious, not kind, heavy. It lands like a verdict about who you are, about whether you can trust yourself, about whether this was ever going to stick in the first place. So instead of adjusting, you hesitate, you pause, you hover in that uncomfortable middle space, not quite sure what to do next, and already feeling the weight of that self judgment. If you've ever been right there, aware you've slipped, unsure how to respond, and afraid of making it worse, that's the moment we are talking about today. Hi, fellow busy brains. If this episode already feels a little too relatable, make sure you're following the show so your next do over is waiting for you when you need it. And if you're already part of this community, thank you. Truly, you are the reason more people are realizing they're not broken, their brains are just a little busy. Hit follow so you don't miss the next do over we'll do together. Here's your do over for this week: the Curious Pause do over. And I want to be really clear about what this is and what it isn't. This is not about restarting. It's not about getting back on track. And it's definitely not about fixing yourself. This is about staying present. In the moment where shame usually takes over, when you notice you've fallen off a routine, a boundary, a practice that mattered to you, pause there. Not to correct it, not to push yourself forward, just to notice. First, name what happened neutrally. Not, I screwed this up. Not, I always do this. Just, I stopped doing something that was helping me. That's it. Don't assign meaning yet. Just say the truth. Then, instead of turning on yourself, get curious. Ask, what might my brain be trying to protect me from right now? And slow down here. This is important, guys, because sometimes what looks like inconsistency is actually avoidance. And sometimes what looks like avoidance is actually protection. Protection from discomfort, from fear, from stillness, from grief, from the thoughts that show up when things get quiet, from the question of, what if this doesn't work out the way I want it to? You don't have to solve any of that. You don't have to go digging for answers. You're not required to change anything yet. The gift of noticing isn't clarity or motivation. It's safety. Because the moment you can see what's happening without shaming yourself for it, your nervous system stops treating this as a threat. And when your brain feels safe, it doesn't need to defend you with avoidance or shutdown. That's what this step gives you. Not answers, not action, room. And from that place, then you can ask, what would make it feel safe to take one small step back toward myself? Not the whole routine, not the original version, just a gentle re-entry. That's the do-over. Not forcing, not proving, not fixing, just choosing curiosity so you can stay in relationship with yourself instead of disappearing. Here's your permission slip for this week. You are allowed to pause here. You are allowed to notice what came up for you. The discomfort, the fear, the sadness, the urge to stay busy without turning that into something you need to fix. What you just did matters. not because you figured anything out, not because you made a plan, but because you stayed with yourself instead of abandoning yourself the moment things felt hard. Starting strong doesn't mean you never fall off. It means you know how to come back without turning on yourself. You're allowed to let that be enough for now. You don't have to make it better today. You don't have to get back to the version of you who had it together today. You're allowed to take the next step only when it feels safe to do so. This isn't you falling behind. This is you learning how to return without using shame as the motivator. And that's real progress. If you've been listening and thinking, ugh, I need this kind of reminder more than once a week, I've got you. Join my newsletter, The Weekly Do-Over. It's my short midweek note that drops right when life starts spinning again. Part pep talk, part permission slip, all real life. You'll get practical encouragement, behind-the-scenes stories, and simple resets that actually fit your busy brain. Go to mybusybrain.com/join because waiting until next week to get grounded again is way too long. All right, my fellow busy brain friends, take a breath, give yourself a little grace, and remember, you can always start again. That's what a do-over really is. Not perfection, just permission. Talk soon.